When do Black Lives Matter and the invention of an identity, a political and cultural project of a world to come are just some of the subjects that will be discussed at the upcoming Joburg Contemporary Art Foundation School of the South lecture series during this month and June. On Thursday, Sonal Khullar addressed the first lecture titled Strange Kinships, Amrita Sher-Gil's Art Across Continents. And to tell us more, we joined via Zoom by CLIVE KELLNER, and he's the Executive Director of the Joburg Contemporary Art Foundation. Clive, very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Great. Good morning.
Now, for someone who may not know what the Joburg Contemporary Art Foundation is, what kind of work do you do there?
Mm-hmm. So the Joburg Contemporary Art Foundation is a new philanthropic organization. We launched in February 2020, actually launched with a lecture on the Global South by a scholar called Arjun Apodura. What we focus on is exhibitions, research, and technology. And primarily the way we do this is we present exhibitions for the public for free, which are researched and put together around a theme. And the theme runs for a period of 3 years, of which we do 3 exhibitions. So 1 exhibition a year. We've done the first in 2020 with 5 contemporary women artists. And in 2021, we presented an exhibition that went back looking at from the 1960s and 70s to the present time, all women artists from the Global South. And for the 3rd iteration, in October this year, we are presenting 3 modernist women artists, Frida Kahlo, Amrita Sher-Gil, and Irma Stern. Frida Kahlo is a Mexican artist, Amrita Sher-Gil is from India, and Irma Stern is South Africa. It's the first time these artists will be presented together, and certainly the first time for Frida Kahlo and Amrita Sher-Gil in Africa, in the African continent. So the lecture series is really a way of running up to and presenting the exhibition and giving the audience access to more information about these artists. And
it certainly is something to look out for. Now, let's talk about how the Joburg Contemporary Art Foundation found its home in an old substation.
Several years ago, we were researching, looking for a site, a place for founding JCAF. And one of the sites that came up, wasn't available at the time, was a derelict substation in Forest Town in Johannesburg. It's a heritage building, local heritage, City of Johannesburg heritage. And we spent 3 years lovingly restoring that building and transforming it into a very beautiful, unique place for a very special encounter with art. So we retained all the original structure, the brickwork, which is really almost 100 years old. And then the architects really delicately dealt with this interface between the past and history and the present through the insertion of glass and steel elements. And we've created a customized building that is of museum standard, that is very pure in its encounter with space and form and light. It's quite a special experience.
But what's the significance then of the theme, female identities in the Global South?
So, countries like South Africa have all dealt with questions of colonial legacy, and we're all trying to figure out how to respond and we have decolonial movements, the various methods and strategies of rethinking who we are and how we should embody our place and time in the contemporary world from places like the African continent. In developing a model for JCAF, we were thinking through the bigger questions of identity, who we are, what our worldview is in relation to not only the continent, but places like Latin America, India. And so we've developed a strategy that looks at the Global South. And then for the first 3 years, our theme is only focused on women artists and the 3 women scholars for the lecture series. So it's really to focus on a very important issue in our society, which is women.
And I understand you had the first series on Thursday, isn't it, where Sonal Khullar addressed your first lecture in the School of the South lecture series. So how would you describe it? Just take us through the content.
So Sonal is a very dynamic speaker. All our lecturers have doctorates. They're superb scholars in their area. And they also understand the cultural context from which they are working and practicing and thinking. So we created a bespoke structure, what we call in the forum, a place for dialogue and debate. So it's quite intimate, and it's based on an auditorium kind of structure. And this was the sort of framework for the lecture series. So Nell came through and she spoke about, presented an absolutely dynamic, extremely stimulating lecture on Amrita Sher-Gil. So Amrita is a very interesting artist from India in the period of modernism, really introducing modernism in Indian art through painting, and particularly a subject matter, not only women, but groups of figures, the so-called every person. And the lecture really creates an environment and a context in which people can understand how she was working, what she was thinking, what influenced her, the kind of ideas that came through. Really dynamic lecture.
All right, Clive, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I suppose a very contentious subject will be explored on the 22nd of June during the lecture by Lanitra M. Burgers on, it's titled, When Do Black Lives Matter? That is certainly is something that we should look forward to. Thank you so much for joining us.